Hello, YouTube friends and family. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to read to you some more from my book, All for Jesus. This devotional is entitled The Hallmark of God's Servant. As God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. That's from Colossians 3:12. Show true humility toward all men. Titus 3:2. In humility, consider others better than yourselves. Philippians 2:3. The preoccupation with self is the enemy of humility. We cannot lead people farther spiritually than we've come ourselves. If we are carnal people, we'll have carnal interests. If we are spiritual, we'll attract those who are seeking spiritual meaning. Our life pursuits will reflect our character and personal integrity. When money is lost, nothing is lost. When health is lost, something is lost. But when character is lost, all is lost. Character and humility were qualities Paul both preached and lived. In Miletus, he said that he had served the Lord with great humility and with tears. When we read of his bold defense of the faith, of his aggressive expansion of the gospel, his assertive leadership style, and his contention for the whole gospel, we wonder how he described it as tearful and tender. We are so often confused by the overemphasis on the self and our tendency towards self-information that we may wonder how it is possible to be truly humble. Apparently it is. Let's remember that we think truth before we experience it. It's in the mind. Humility starts within the thoughts. Paul wrote, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus." Like a filter on a computer, a mindset of humility must block our pride. When we begin to think about what might cause us to think of yourself more highly than you ought, we invite egotism, which is the affirmation of the self above God. What is humility? The Bible states. Now Moses was a very humble man, more humble than anyone else on the face of the earth. It's hard to believe that he was humble or meek. We picture Moses in great stature, with a powerful personality and unequaled leadership. But we also remember his reluctance to lead and exert himself after God called him to return to Egypt. If Moses is a good example of humility, the people he was called to lead were not. It was their refusal to trust him and God to enter the land of promise that resulted in their wandering in the desert for 40 years. Picture in your mind at least 2 million people constantly breaking camp day after day. The estimate, the estimate is that it would have taken 4 hours just to get ready to walk, at least 4 hours of travel, and then 2 or 3 hours to settle down again at the end of the day with herds of animals and massive supplies. Every day of these 40 years there were hundreds of funerals, and only those younger than 20 would enter the land except Joshua and Caleb. God was grinding down their pride. In Deuteronomy 8:2, Moses reminds the Israelites, God humbled you, causing you to hunger and then feeding you with manna. God used those 40 years to humble them, to teach them to keep His commandments and to trust Him. Learning humility is a painful process. If we exalt ourselves, we will be put down, but if we humble ourselves, we, we will be exalted. Humility is an attitude. It is an inner system of caution we should use to elevate ourselves before the Lord. The Lord is high and lifted up, and we are supposed to take a position of lowliness. We think of the Apostle Paul as assertive, bold, and confrontational. He was not passive. When Peter was compromising, Paul opposed him to his face. This evangelist, strategist, and architect of church history seems anything but humble. Yet that was Apostle who claimed for himself and preached to us. Paul reminded the Corinthians of his painful service. All right, to Corinthians, I want to tell you my personal experience. I was whipped 5 times. I was beaten with rods 3 times. I was let down by a wall in a basket. I was stoned. I've been in prison. I've been naked. I've been lonely. I've been shipwrecked 3 times. I've been hungry. I've been deprived. I've been betrayed by other people. Yet, at the end of his ministry, this man could say, I'm the least of all these saints. The Apostle James warned his readers against favoritism, a subtle form of pride. If you show special attention to the man wearing fine clothes and say, here's a good seat for you, but say to the poor man, you stand there or sit on the floor by my feet, have you not discriminated among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? I'll tell you what, those who are lowly God will exalt, and those who are rich God will put down. They will be like the flower of the field, and they will wither and die and blow away. They'll perish. Consider also how Ahab, the king of Old Testament history, sold himself to do evil in the eyes of the Lord. Urged on by Jezebel, his wife, he behaved in the vilest manner. God sent Elijah to confront Ahab and forecast destruction. Yet the king's response moved even God, whom he had insulted. Have you noticed, he asked Elijah, how Ahab was humbled himself before me? Because he has humbled himself, I will not bring you this disaster in his day. How wonderfully encouraging that Ahab's humble response to chastening held back the judgment of God. This is one of God's absolute reliable principles for life. If my people, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from the heaven and will forgive their sin. That's the power of humility, the power of taking the proper position before the Lord and serving the Lord with humility of mind. Consider the fall of Lucifer, the highest of angels. He saw the glory and the splendor of the Almighty and the angels that worshipped him, but he wanted that for himself. Lucifer was the brightest angelic creation in the universe, but what did he do? He said, I will be like the Most High God. I will raise my throne. I will ascend above all. But God said to Satan, you will be brought down. Pride entered the holiest of all places, heaven itself. Isn't that frightening? At the peak of our spiritual growth, in the tender moments of deep desire for God, selfish pride asks, what's in it for me? The scripture says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace unto the humble. God gives grace to humble, not to the prideful. If we assume self-advancing attributes, we've missed his gift of favor. Humble yourselves therefore under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. Personally, humility is a spiritual discipline and the hallmark of the service of Jesus. Is a prayer. Father, thank you for your word. Help us to live it and to follow the example of the Lord Jesus, who humbled himself and yielded willingly to the death on the cross. Then you, O God, exalted him and gave him a name that was above every other name. With broken and contrite hearts, we bow before you and pray that we may worship and serve you in the humility of our minds and hearts. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, that's it for the reading. Hope you liked it. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share, and subscribe. Until I see you again, God bless you all. Goodbye.